announced a defence and energy package with Saudi Arabia, F-35 fighter jets, nuclear cooperation, mega investments, the works. It is the kind of deal that shifts global influence overnight.
Now you're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing it will facilitate that, and
I like that very much.
Well, deals like that force a question that we have avoided in this country, I think, for too long. Britain has quietly slipped from a global superpower to what? A global spectator, maybe? Because, let's be honest, 75 years ago, the end of the Second World War, we were shaping the future. Now, one generation on only, are we even relevant? Or are we just watching the big boys play? Everybody, it feels like, on the global stage is looking eastwards towards China's cash, Saudi energy, Gulf investment. And that is the new global marketplace. The Americans understand that, do we? Saudi Arabia already treats London like its second home. Tens of thousands of Saudis live, work, study and invest here in the UK. Entire districts of Knightsbridge, Park Lane and Mayfair are built on Gulf money. The question tonight is, how does Britain stay relevant when we have to watch meetings like that? And the most uncomfortable question of all, if America is eating, China is buying, the Saudis are building, what exactly are we in Britain doing? Let's get the take of my panel. First of all, before we go to one of our guests on this, Jennifer, where do we sit on the global stage when you see a meeting like that with a Saudi prince who can say, I was going to offer you 600 billion, but while I've been sitting here, I've decided to round it up to a cool trillion. How do we compete?
So, in my opinion, and I'm somewhat biased, there's one easy way. I moved here 20 years ago to work in the capital markets, and London had basically, you know, the entire city. It had insurance, it had the law, it was the top of the top. Everyone wanted to do IPOs here. You wanted to raise money here. It was a huge competition with New York and Hong Kong. It's completely changed since then. It's too difficult to raise money here. It's over-regulated here. They're not taking advantage of some of the brilliant new industries like crypto, like AI, that sort of thing. I was just in New York last week at a crypto conference, and like the difference in spirit was palpable. You know, you even had government officials calling into the conference, basically saying, how can I help you? You're the private sector. Compare that to a conference in London 2 weeks ago where people are still kind of trying to figure out, like, what can we do? So the shackles and the regulation, I think, needs to come off of Britain so it can go back to how it was, making money and making people prosperous.
It feels like, though, Paul, whenever Rishi Sunak stood on stage at the end of his premiership, every time he stood up, he was talking about AI, how we were going to be the AI superpower. He was obsessed with it. We were all going to do maths till we were 18. Do you remember the panic about that? And we were going to be the AI superpower. Is it just that we've had this transition of governments and therefore we don't know who we are now? It's a longer-term problem, isn't it?
It is a much longer-term problem. And the AI thing, you're absolutely right. I'd forgotten about it. It's disappeared entirely off of the front pages of the newspapers. What's apparent about this Labour Party is they're squeamish about success. They have made success a taboo. Anybody who is successful, the only thing they're useful for is tax pounds, and we don't encourage it. We open up the door and say, if you don't want to pay the tax, you can leave. Meanwhile, at the bottom end of the market, we're inviting absolutely anybody in and saying to the rest of the world that we're a low-skilled economy, and we're a benefits economy, we're a welfare economy, and we literally I can't remember a time since, I mean, the 80s comes to mind, perhaps the early years of Blair and Brown, where success was seen as something to celebrate. Ever since then, we've been entirely squeamish about it. We have no interest in saying to the world we're successful at anything. We need to change the mindset entirely.
Let's talk to historian Philip Kisserly about this. Philip, thank you for joining us this evening. We were talking about the demise, really, of this country on the global stage. And I don't want to talk Great Britain down because we have the best people. We speak the global language of English. You know, we were the Industrial Revolution in many ways, this country. Where are we now, Phil, and how has that happened?
I think it's a long story. I think it's a long story of decline that really starts after the war. I think we were a particular society in 1939. In 1945, we were a different society, I think. And we'd won, but we were in massive debt. Then we had a socialist government. Then we went through this really long period of reconstruction where we were rebuilding cities, and we were building hundreds of thousands of homes. We had a great period in the 60s, which was culturally very important for us. And especially in the States and across the world and all the rest of it. But I think politically, after 1968, we were dead. The 70s was a terrible, terrible period. The 80s with Margaret Thatcher, we became important again, but only symbolically through her, I think. And again, I'm like you, I don't want to talk Britain down. I love Britain. You know, I love my country. I'm an absolute patriot. But I think we're at the end of an era now. We're at the end of, you know, beyond the post-war era. We're at the end of the liberal era. And I think that that needs to change. We need to completely rethink who and what we are. We need to look to the future, thinking about Britain, not thinking in terms of identity politics, thinking in terms of immigration, and thinking in terms of what's Gadsard's phrase? What does he call it? Suicidal empathy. Those kinds of things. So
ruinous empathy. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to put ourselves first, and we need to, as your previous guests have said, I absolutely agree. We need to celebrate success rather than demonize it. Now, I think we need a completely new government for that. We would be looking to a reform government, I think, for that, because we need to re-establish conservative values. Making money needs to be good again, and we need to celebrate our culture and heritage.
And when you look at America, Philip, what Donald Trump is doing out there, and the growth forecast there being 3 or 4 times ours this year, and actually post-pandemic their growth being significantly better than ours. He would say, of course, President Trump would say, it's all about your fuel, it's about your energy, it's about the fact that you are sacrificing your economy on the altar of eco-zealotry whilst we are drilling. And when the Saudi king is sat there, and you look across the world and you think there isn't a rich country that doesn't deal in oil and gas and drill, baby drill. Is that where we're going wrong?
I think it's one of the reasons where we're going wrong, but I don't think it's just about economics. I walk through the town centre here where I live. I spend every week in London doing shows and working for a think tank. It's about culture as well. There's something degraded about the place, and it's tatty. And I mentioned before the 1970s. It reminds me of the 1970s. Not that I can remember the 1970s, but it reminds me of that downtrodden. You know, it's riddled with trouble, and it comes from. I have to say, I think that it stems from mass immigration, open borders, and an inability to control the land, an inability to control who and what we are, and the demographic changing so quickly at such a low level in terms of skills, employment, and all the rest of it. I think those are the key issues. So.
It's all quite bleak, isn't it, Philip? Let's talk to Mally Smith in DC, Democrat strategist. Mally, the sort of conclusion there being this is the fact that we are not moving fast enough maybe towards conservative values, valuing competition, valuing the free market, deregulating, allowing businesses to build. Is that where the UK is going wrong?
Well, I certainly think the UK needs to do something to boost economic growth. You saw after COVID, a lot of countries, went into a brief recession. But after that, the US, China, we really jumped out of the gate and we got growth back to a pretty strong level. Sure, there were problems, inflation, just dealing with the issues that came after COVID, but growth got back to a strong level. And through Democrat and Republican administrations, we've seen strong growth. And I think the UK needs to have a pro-growth agenda. It needs to make sure that the total GDP pie is growing. I am a Democrat, so obviously I'm probably a little bit more pro-regulation than some. But with that being said, you've got to have overall economic growth, or you're going to have stagnating wages, you're going to have inflation, you're going to have a population that is unhappy, and you need to have a middle class in the UK and in the US that feels like they're getting ahead, that they're leaving a country that's better than the one they inherited. And that's tied to how you feel about the economy.
Yeah, let's bring my panel back in here. Jennifer, one thing that strikes me when I'm over in DC, whenever I hear President Trump talking, particularly talking about the UK, this is the most pro-British president we have had in the White House in living memory, and will probably be the most pro-British president that we will have for decades, and we're not making the most of it, are we?
No. No is the answer. Absolutely not, which is a shame. And I think, in addition to the things that, the two gentlemen both mentioned, which is we need to reward success again. We need to say to people, work is good for you, get back to work. And, that's going to make everyone more prosperous, get off of the state sort of payment system and everything. And that's what America is very, very good at any level. You'll know, Bev, even if you get out at the, you get out at the customs agent, and even those people seem very proud to have their jobs. They're probably not the highest glamour jobs or the highest paying jobs, but people are proud to be working, and it's good for people. And I think that's the number one thing we can start with in this country is get people back to work.
It's attitude, Paul, particularly the younger generation. We've got this, is it 5 million young people who aren't working or in education? They're sort of in this horrible malaise, and they just think, what's the point? I'm never going to be rich. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, interesting what you said about Trump. I think Trump is more pro-UK, more pro-Britain than Sir Keir Starmer, I think, than the whole of the Labour cabinet put together. And one of the reasons he is he doesn't indulge in this politics of envy. So what he wants to do is he wants to promote capitalism around the world. And we're very gauche about capitalism in a very negative way. It's not in a British way. It's not that we don't like to talk about money. It's that we just, as we've all said now, we don't like to talk about success. Meritocracy is now become taboo as well. Like, you're put to the top of every list based on maybe your sexuality, what genitals you prefer to have, or the colour of your skin, or something like that. It's all a nonsense. It doesn't promote anything. Just have the best of the best of the best. Do what Trump's doing. Why wouldn't we do what Trump's doing? Why wouldn't we sell our greatest assets? Why would we not, as a whole nation, look at the 77,000 people leaving the UK since the Labour government come into power and say, please don't go. Why are you going? What can we do to make you stay?
Mali, we're weighed down by DEI still in this country, and you've shaken off the shackles of that.
Sure. I mean, I don't think the Trump economy is as good as we're making it out here. Inflation is up and job growth has slowed. But with that being said, I do think there is something the UK could take from the US, which is, I think the US economy is a little too dependent on tech and AI companies, but I do think the UK could really stand to benefit to enhancing their tech sector and trying to pick up some of that, tech-fueled, AI-fueled growth. Maybe you guys could borrow some of the US's, because we seem to have a lot.
All right, Mali, thank you. Get in touch with me, gbnews.com/your say. I'd love to hear from you this evening. Let me just, Steve says, thank you, Steve, this is interesting. Is it just a theory of mine, just an observation? It's women on the political right who tend to be in shape. That's you, Jennifer. Look after themselves, they're classy, intelligent and attractive, whereas the ones on the left tend to be rainbow-haired, pierced, tattooed, ultra-aggressive, vegan feminists. There's a couple of words I did leave out from that, but that's your opinion. Let me know if you agree. gbnews.com/your say. Still to come tonight on The Late Show Live.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed.
Breaking tonight, Congress has overwhelmingly voted in the last few minutes to release the Epstein files. But why now, and what more can we expect to uncover? First of all, a story you're not going to want to miss.
But I am pleased that she is bringing forward measures to crack down on illegal immigration. It's not enough, but it is a start.
The civil service could be monitoring your social media. They are cracking down on what they're calling divisive rhetoric, including anything you might say about mass immigration. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Look, I thought that what the Home Secretary said yesterday in rhetorical terms was extremely encouraging. Extremely encouraging. It's just that in realistic terms, I'm not quite sure that it will survive her own backbenches and a vote in Parliament, and I can't see that any of it actually works. I mean, you can tell the judges, please interpret the ECHR and the Human Rights Act differently, but in practice you can't actually make them do that.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. That was Reform UK leader Nigel Farage responding to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's asylum crackdown, which to me seems to be a lot of words which aren't actually going to change anything. More on that a little later. First of all, though, civil servants are being taught to spy on your social media posts. The 6,000 strong, that's right, 6,000 strong Government Communications Service has been advised to monitor anti-migrant social media posts and produce counter-narratives. Some examples of the rhetoric they say need monitoring include the idea that certain communities are getting priority housing while local families wait years. Apparently, that is the kind of social media post that could have you get a knock at the door. What a joy now to talk to Baroness Claire Fox, Director of the Academy of Ideas and a fierce proponent of free speech. Claire, so great to see you. Just let's linger on that number for a moment. 6,000 1,000 civil service members whose job it is to run the department watching social media posts. What's going on, Claire?
Well, first of all, let me just say, good to talk to you, by the way, Bev, but if I can just say that I'm actually quite enthusiastic about the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's announcements, and actually she's put out some great social media posts, and the big question that we have to ask is whether this new spying body that's got these kind of really sinister terms, like, what's it called? They're going to pre-bunk information. That's what counter-narratives are. They're going to tell a different story. So they're going to take the reality and then say, oh, this is all very dangerous and polarizing. So can we put out a different, more positive story? Because we don't want anyone to develop any kind of negativity around asylum hotels or any of these things. And if they've been following the Home Secretary, she's been actually talking about, indeed, community housing concerns around asylum hotels. So are they going to be knocking on her door? I mean, the whole thing is so sinister. It's called a resist framework. And these civil servants are going to be in touch with local councils and tell them when they think free debate crosses the line to harmful speech. And then they're going to advise them how they can counter that. You know, so it's even worse than censorship. It's even worse than kind of knocking on your door. They're actually going to set up events locally to try and imply that there's a whole different way of looking at this story according to the government. And I think that is basically, that shaping of narratives is the worst kind of manipulation. And it itself is the real misinformation here.
What does it tell you about a government that tries to do this, Claire? Is it what is it? You know, that's what you get to the nub of. What does it tell us about? And it's not just this government; it's been subsequent governments, because the clamping. We've had 200 different laws to compromise free speech over the course of this country's existence. Most of them recently. What does it tell us about the government if they're trying to do this?
I think that is becoming completely apparent now is that the government is both frightened of and despises its own population. It looks out at the millions of British people who may be very unhappy about some things that are happening in relation to, for example, illegal boat crossings, you know, the issue around asylum and so on and so forth. And instead of thinking, what can we do to resolve this? It immediately thinks, how can we contain their anger? How can we ensure that we keep the lid on their righteous irritation at the fact that we won't do what they've told us to do? And some of the, interestingly, some of the responses today to the Home Secretary were MPs saying things like, this is just pandering to the electorate. I mean, that's called democracy. And you can see that for politicians in this country, democracy is a scary notion. The ordinary people have a view, have a say, prepared to say it out loud and act on it. And all they can do is think, how can we shut them up, contain them, demonize them if they say the wrong thing, treat it as disinformation. They're talking about setting up cohesion forums locally. If you get invited to one of them, keep away. I can't imagine anything worse.
I'd love to go. I'd love to go.
Council officers and local government officials, all trained in civil service speak, to tell you in quiet tones why you're wrong. Why your wrong thing is obviously leading you into dangerous far-right polarising territory. And these are British citizens who are being treated as though they are the enemy within. And that's a very dangerous state of affairs.
But you'd thrive in an environment like that, Claire Fox. Do you think we should make a date and go round to one of these cohesion committees and give them a piece of our mind? I'm up for it if you are.
I think that what we do need to do, you know, they're spying on ordinary people. They're monitoring and sowing their counter-narratives. And I think you've got a point there, Bev, which is we should spy on them. We should point out every time we see them shaping narratives, trying to manipulate the truth, trying to actually make out that what people are worried about is actually somehow the wrong kind of information. We should just point the finger at them. And any public meeting that they have that they try and contain, we should turn up. I really enjoyed it during the week, by the way, when there was a local town hall meeting where the Green Party representatives were trying to explain, we're basically talking about how important it was to welcome asylum seekers in that instance, and then started talking about all the people in the local hotels who were doctors and nurses and lawyers, and the whole audience just exploded. Because the thing that's great about British working class people is they really can spot nonsense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They call it out, and they will not be taken for fools.
You're right.
So, you, me, and the British working class should go around and point
with
out.
our finely tuned BS-ometer, which is what you were getting at, Claire.
Absolutely.
Gorgeous to see you. Lovely to see you. Baroness Claire Fox there. Just adore her. Jennifer and Paul are still with me. Let's bring in Mally as well on this issue. I loved the idea there, Mally, of what Claire said, is this is a government who are frightened of their own people. Do you know why? Because that gives me hope. Because they need reminding that they are here to serve us rather than the other way round.
Well, a lot of it does sound incredibly dystopian, especially cohesion committees or whatever that was called. Look, if you have ideas and things you don't like, whether you're a government official or just a person on the street, you fight ideas with ideas. You don't fight ideas with censorship, and you don't fight ideas with surveillance. I think in the U.S. we went too far when it came to COVID, when they were trying to say, hey, these are accounts or folks who are saying things that aren't in line with generally perceived what's the best or right ideas. If what you believe is the right idea, win the argument, make the debate, but don't surveil and don't cancel debate.
Is this for you, Jennifer, one of those issues where, as an American living in the UK, with your First Amendment, your Constitution, free speech is sacred. Can you imagine a time in which the American government might put 6,000 employees to watch people's social media posts?
Well, I mean, shockingly, we just, a few years ago learned about the Twitter, the Twitter files and the censorship that was going on at the, by the Biden administration. Yeah. So it did happen in my country, which is scary. Thank God to, Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger and indeed Elon, who released that. So we saw how sinister things could get. But you're right. I mean, we have the First Amendment. I personally am free speech absolutist. I think, just as, Mally said, you fight speech with more speech. I think what they might be trying to accomplish here is people who will self-censor and think, you know what, I don't want to risk getting sent to prison or arrested or whatever, 12,000 people or whatever that were arrested in this country in 2023. So they'll just self-censor, and then the discussion will stop. And that would be a terrible thing for this country, for any side, whatever you believe. Yeah, you're living in a tyranny then, Paul Cox. Yeah. By the time you're self-censoring, the work is already done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrifying, isn't it? What I really do enjoy about American politics is both Mally and Jennifer there were almost in complete agreement about free speech, because your rules of engagement are thoroughly different to ours. Baroness Claire Fox, by the way, I absolutely love. Hello, Claire. She made some exquisite points, but one of the things I really enjoyed was where she talked about, first of all, Mahmoud's tweets being inspected, because why wouldn't they be now? Because she is counter-narrative. And by the way, the narrative changes every week, so I don't know how these 6,000 people are going to work. But democracy is alien to the left in the UK, because the thing about democracy, it's more than one view. You have to accept. So what these 6,000 people are doing is they're saying they are not abiding by the one view in which we all believe in. Like, we all believe in it in some way. Nobody has just one view. There's people on this, all three of us on this panel have a very similar politics, but we don't all share the same view about everything, and that's the beauty of democracy. And that's what I really enjoy about American politics. I really do worry for the future of the UK, because it only takes 4 years of Labour government to infect a whole generation of people, young people, who think that they're entitled to just one view as well. Yeah. And they've seen the government exercise it, so I do worry. Yeah.
On this issue, thank you all, a government spokesman has said, we are committed to protecting people online whilst upholding freedom of expression to ensure the internet does not serve as a haven for those looking to spread harm, both online and offline. Coming up on The Late Show Live tonight.
You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats.
Well, the US House has voted overwhelmingly just a couple of hours ago, if that, to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. We're going to unpack what happens next. What more could emerge also tonight?
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage.
That was an unusually conservatively dressed Nicki Minaj. She's been on stage in America. You probably didn't recognise her with the clothes on. She's been at the United Nations. Why? I'll tell you in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Very special edition. I'm in London this evening. We've got Mali down the line in DC. The US Senate has unanimously agreed to send the bill demanding the release of the Epstein files straight to Donald Trump's desk. So earlier today, the US House voted overwhelmingly to make the Justice Department release files related to the deceased Jeffrey Epstein. The vote was 427 1. I wonder who the 1 was. Do we know who the 1 was?
It was a guy called Clay Higgins, and actually what he said was he was voting on behalf of people's privacy, and if something was misinterpreted, so, you know, that was the one. He's a Republican, by the way, too.
Brave man. Well, they're going to release these Epstein files now. Meanwhile, fresh demands are continuing to grow for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to testify in Congress. And earlier today, there was also this extraordinary moment in the Oval Office when a reporter asked about the release of the files.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. You're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert.
I said he was a pervert. I kicked him out of my house. He's been consistent on that. Let's talk to White House reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Julia, thank you so much for joining The Late Show Live. Do you know who the reporter was there today? I think she was from ABC, wasn't she?
Yeah, the reporter was Mary Bruce, and she's a very well-known, well-respected reporter here in Washington. But we know that President Trump has sparred with ABC News and ABC, the company, a lot of times in the past. You'll remember that, of course, Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night comedian, made comments that were controversial about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and then we heard the Trump administration calling on ABC News to take Kimmel off of air. So there certainly is a history here between the president and ABC News, but certainly I would argue a legitimate question on a very big news day in Washington surrounding the Epstein files.
And his argument was you could have asked it nicely. You just came all aggressive, and obviously he didn't like that, did he? What happens now, Julia? Just tell us how big this is in Washington, D.C. tonight.
It's the biggest story in Washington, D.C., so big that I would argue it's eclipsing the visit of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. In fact, we saw the House pass it nearly unanimously, the Epstein files bill. Then it went to the Senate, and we were earlier this afternoon chatting, oh, could this vote happen on Thursday? Maybe it's Tuesday. How is he going to get this done in time before Thanksgiving? But it passed unanimously through the Senate tonight, and a White House official tells us, a senior official tells us, that President Trump will sign the bill as soon as it gets to the White House. But logistically, I think we have some questions in terms of is it signed during this dinner, around this dinner? So we'll see when the president does indeed sign this.
And the Epstein files, Julia, it doesn't say, they aren't pieces of paper, which is what it sounds like. They are emails, they are tapes, they will be photographs. Is this what we're expecting that the public will have access to see?
Well, we really don't know what the public's going to have access to see, and what will be released, what will not be released, what will be redacted. Of course, there's a lot of questions about the privacy of these victims, and whether their names will be released. So you could see some legal challenges in courts like the Southern District of New York, for example, against the release of this, or the release of part of this. So I think that's the big question. What do we see coming out of this?
And why haven't we had the Epstein files released before now? What has the logic been from previous governments?
Well, Republicans would argue that the Biden administration avoided releasing these files, that it was never brought up, so they didn't move to release them. But I would say that a lot of the attention surrounding the Epstein files really ratcheted up during the 2024 presidential campaign, when you actually heard President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance campaigning in part, not only on this, but in part on releasing the Epstein files. We know that the president president's conservative MAGA base really cares about this as an issue, and they would like to see this happen. And I think that's why you saw, last week, a bit of a fissure in the House of Representatives. You had, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Thomas Massie, all join with Democrats to release these files. So all it took was President Trump kind of giving the green light to Republicans. That's what happened. And as they say, Republicans very much fell in line.
OK, Julia, great to see you. Julia Manchester there, reporter from the White House for The Hill, joining us from DC. Jennifer, let me just ask you this. How will President Trump feel tonight, do you think? Because I've heard that these files are a problem for the Republicans. And if I'm wrong on that, by all means, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. I'm sure you will at home. But this is a Democrat bomb waiting to go off inside these files. It is Clinton. It is the guy that was running the Fed, Summers.
Yeah, Larry Summers.
Larry Summers. This is not going to cause problems for the Republicans, and the Democrats have been negotiated and cleverly backed into a corner whereby they're demanding the expose, and it's going to backfire.
So I think it's going to be across all political parties. I think it's going to be across academia and science and politics and sports and entertainment. I think there are a lot of people involved everywhere, which is just a sad state of affairs. I think this is really good, and I think President Trump's actually going to feel relieved that the vote happened so swiftly, because the fact of the matter is he's at his lowest ratings ever right now in his second term of his presidency, and two of the issues that he polls very lowly on are the cost of living and handling of the Epstein files. It's like 20%. He needs to get this off his back so he can move on.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Mally, isn't it, in DC? Because the MAGA base, one of the reasons they wanted to vote for President Trump is because they felt there was going to be transparency on these Epstein files. And for whatever reason, whatever's useful in there will not be useful anymore once they're out and about. Is it going to be a Democrat problem?
I think it's going to be a problem for Trump, and I think, as your other guest said, it's going to be a problem for people in power. We've seen people in power kind of across the political spectrum had interactions with Epstein and continued to have interactions with Epstein after we knew the terrible things he had been accused of, and he had been convicted of some of the terrible things he had been accused of. It's the first time, really, we've seen the MAGA base break with Trump. The reason Trump came out and endorsed this vote is he knew that it was coming to a vote and tons of Republicans were going to break away anyways. So instead of having that loss with him saying don't vote and then a bunch of Republicans do vote for it, he said, okay, I'm going to get ahead of this. I do think there's going to be one interesting thing we're going to see moving forward is whenever Trump signs this, the actual release of these files could be a bit complicated, because in the bill it says if an ongoing investigation is happening, then they can redact some of those files. Well, Trump announced that that they're going to do an investigation into Bill Clinton. I don't want to get conspiracy theorist here, but if that gives him the cover to not release some of the files that pertain to him, then I think that's a way he creatively tries to get out of this problem. And when I say that, I'm not saying he has terrible things in there, but there's something in there that clearly he doesn't want out, and I think that they'll use that as a pretext to withhold some of those files.
Paul, do you think the British public care about the Epstein files? I got a bit of stick for not asking him about this, the President, when I spoke to him last week, but I was there representing GB News viewers and listeners, and I just think this leaves the British public a little cold, this story.
Yeah, people aren't that. I think it was, by the way, that was an incredibly unfair question that Jonathan Liss asked earlier. I genuinely believe that. There was no need for that. Of course, I mean, it's a massive coup, by the way. Congratulations, Bev. That was an
do you know what? We should tell people we are going to be discussing that, actually, after the next break. We're going to be talking about the whole Trump interview and how it was and everything else, all the behind-the-scenes gossip. But anyway, carry on, Paul.
I think in terms of the UK public, we don't mind a bit of sleaze. This is sleaze. I don't think it's going to overly impact Donald Trump, certainly not during the term of his presidency. I really don't think it's going to impact the Clintons as many would like it to. I think there's going to be enough redacted, enough plausible doubt that it really won't amount to anything initially. I just don't see it. We've never, if it did, if it was just warts and all, we have never ever seen anything like that, so I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, you just got to look at who's like fueling up the private jets tonight to escape. That's what I want to know. Right, moving on now. Just a few days ago. Oh, sorry, you got to watch this. Late Show Live.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
You might have watched that on this show on Friday night. I've lost track of what day it is. I sat down, of course, with the president. I'll tell you what happened behind the scenes. We'll have a little chat as well here about the reaction that we've had to that interview. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Back to the Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. We're going to talk to you about my interview with President Trump. I've not spoken to anybody about this yet. I've been busy picking up the kids' wet towels off the floor and doing all the mum stuff from after the interview. But we're not going to rush it now because we don't have time, so we're going to watch it after 1 o'clock. Sorry about that. So we want to talk now about the fact that a record 257,000 Britons have left the country in the first year of Labour. Not migrants, not visitors, British nationals. You at home leaving. And while the government pats itself on the back because net migration fell, it only fell because our own nations fled. Next week, Rachel Reeves is reportedly planning another mega budget with even more tax rises because the last 40 billion clearly wasn't enough. So let's discuss this with my panel and with Mali. Also in America, Paul Cox and Jennifer Ewing are still with me. Paul, let me come to you first. Why are people leaving?
Well, they're leaving because there's very little hope in the UK now, unfortunately. And you only have to look at our economy. Hard-working British people, wherever they've come from, that have bought into our values, have zero hope. And this is zero hope before the 26th of November, which is both the budget and my birthday, Bev. My 46th birthday is going to be something to remember, I think, because we are going to see a budget that probably destroys the negative hope we've got into the mega negatives entirely. I just don't know where we're going to go from here. What we do need is we need to cut tax and we need to cut spending on welfare. And these things are not easy, by the way, but that's what these people are employed to do. There isn't a single government that has been able to achieve that. Remember, we used to call the Tories nasty for this type of thing. And Rishi Sunak warned us of this, by the way. I wasn't the biggest Rishi Sunak fan, but Rishi Sunak knew he was going to lose to Labour, and he told the whole country this would happen.
Mally Smith, when you hear that Brits are leaving because we have to pay more tax and therefore more welfare, does it make us sound like a bunch of selfish, kind of just self-obsessed people that don't want to help other people? Because that's not who we are.
Well, no, I think it sounds like you got some folks in a country where the economy is not growing. And if you don't see a future that's bright for you and your family, it makes sense that you might go to a different country where you think the economy's brighter and you're going to have a better day. In the U.S., we don't really see net outflows like this, even if we go into a recession, because the United States is so big. If one state or city is in a recession, there's a conceivable place for you to move where the economy might be better. But in the UK, it's small enough that if the economy is not growing and you have Europe right on your doorstep, you're going to leave. So as we talked about at the beginning, they need to come up with a pro-growth agenda. And I'm not an economist, but they got to figure out what that is.
Yeah, Jennifer, do you know what it strikes me as well? I'd love to dig down into these figures because I bet most of these people leaving did so reluctantly.
Well, of course, because they're probably patriots who love this country, and for whatever reason, and it probably is, as the others have mentioned, cost of living. You know, when I moved here 20 years ago, there were so many young people like myself moving here from all over the world because you could build wealth, you could travel, you could have a family, you could get on a housing ladder, all sorts of good things. And if those things don't exist anymore and you have 30-year-olds like still living with their parents, I mean, that's not great, you know? And we need to have the working and middle class, otherwise you don't have a society. So yeah, all of those things need to be improved upon.
But you see, Labour would say, Paul, we've raised minimum wage. Things are easier now for the youngsters who might be on that low wage. So why is it not working?
Doesn't work. That simply doesn't work. That's a misnomer. I've got a 16-year-old daughter who is looking for work while she's at college because she wants the experience of work. And one of the problems is they have to pay these 16-year-olds so much that there are less and less jobs for young people. It costs a fortune to employ a 16 to 18-year-old in this country. You used to be able to get a Saturday job. You used to be able to get a job at 16 where they would pay you £6 an hour. Now, we don't want people to be underpaid, but 16-year-olds that live with their parents and are being supported in other ways and looking for work, because it's important to get work experience, I personally believe, are unable to do so because the employers just aren't offering the jobs anymore.
Yeah. OK, Mally, by the way, if you had a basic minimum... Run out of time, I'll ask you this in a minute. Or you're all going to have to wait to see what the question was going to be, and you're going to have to wait to see what I thought about my interview with President Trump. Don't go anywhere.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On The Late Show live from London and America tonight. Just a few hours ago, President Trump signed a mega money trade deal with Saudi Arabia. It's the kind of transaction that can shift power overnight. It was so big, it even caught the president off guard.
Now you're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that, and we
I like that very much.
But now, as we here in Britain watch on, what happened to the country that was at the forefront of so many industrial revolutions? No longer in the driving seat, are we? Are we just passengers now on the world stage?
1 million young people trained in tech skills will be so crucial for their future. That's a £185 million investment, embedding AI right through our education system, starting in our secondary schools.
But they never stop, do they, to think about the disadvantages of that? Because breaking tonight, we can reveal startling new data showing that teenagers are turning to chatbots instead of humans, not to do their homework, but to give them emotional and relationship advice. How have we failed an entire generation? We're going to be cracking open tomorrow's front pages hours before the ink is dry and breaking the news before it becomes news. And this evening, as you can see, it's a transatlantic special. We are live from both London and Washington, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage.
That is Nicki Minaj, the rapper, better known for singing about starships wanting to fly. I won't sing it for you. She's been on stage in America at the United Nations. She didn't have her boobs out tonight, though, like that. She's teamed up with the White House to highlight Christian persecution in Nigeria. It's a big topic, and the president feels really strongly about it. So does this mean that more liberal celebrities are now prepared to back President Trump's campaigns?
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed.
massive news in America tonight. Congress has this evening overwhelmingly voted to release the Epstein files. What do you think it will expose?
Because President Trump is in the Oval Office, but when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases.
Jennifer Ewing is with me in the studio still, as is Paul Cox, and we've got Mally Smith down the line in Washington. So, and I've got you all at home, of course, getting in touch with me. There's Mally, looking very lonely on his own. But Paul, that's normally you on your own, so let's not feel too...
Exactly.
Don't feel too sorry for him. And also you at home, of course, get in touch this evening, gbnews.com/your say. Now, just 4 days ago, I think it was, I sat down with the American president, Donald Trump, where he dropped a few major truth bombs, including this, which made headlines across the world. So that interview is GB News' most watched. You couldn't watch it then, but you still can. It has been watched. Clips of it have accumulated to 20 million views, and that is just on GB News' social media channels alone. So I haven't spoken about it since. I came back on an aeroplane to the UK. I've been doing all the glamorous things, you know, sort of clearing out the fridge and seeing the kids and making sure homework's done. Jennifer, back down to earth with a bit of a bang. So I just thought it was worth discussing it with you guys here as well and with our viewers and listeners at home, because it was a bit mad, I can't lie.
Yeah.
It was a bit like, it was basically talking to your uncle on Christmas Day in a really posh room.
Did it feel that way, though? Did it genuinely feel
was
it comfortable?
It was really comfortable. It wasn't particularly comfortable beforehand because we were in the room, we're in the Roosevelt room, and we were there for probably 90 minutes before he came in, maybe 2 hours, and they kept changing the time, and they did say the time will change. You won't be there at 3 o'clock, and then it was 4, and then it was 4:30. The feeling in the room beforehand, because the team is set up, and we have a lovely little team in DC. Ben Leo was there with me, and our amazing cameraman, Ben Davish, was also there. And Ben Leo and I were just sort of stood there and, you know, it's very formal, it's very quiet. And you're giggling because, you know, we're in there trying to be grown-ups, and we were sort of... And then Ben said to me, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, I think I am a bit. And I don't get nervous. And I said, I think I am a bit. It felt a bit like... There used to be, when I was a competitive swimmer, there'd be a room you sat in before the final, and you'd all be in there kind of swinging your arms, and it was silent, and you'd have 8 chairs, you'd all sit on it. It's like the race room before a final. And it felt a bit like that. I had that vibe, but rather than go out and physically hurt myself, I was going to potentially mentally hurt myself. And then Trump, we were given like a few, minutes, well, 5-minute warning, and there were 3 doors into the room, and it was like, which one is he going to come out of?
What struck me the most was, I would never have known you were nervous, by the way, Bev. You did a tremendous job. But just how relaxed Donald Trump looked. He looked incredibly relaxed throughout the interview, as if he was being interviewed by a friend. Now, I know people who don't like this channel, and, by the way, why do you watch? Thank you. Cheers. We appreciate it. But he looked incredibly relaxed. And it wasn't like you gave him an easy ride. You gave him an interview that we all wanted to see. We wanted to get to know Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But because he's always... I mean, the idea of, he needs a combative interview is for the birds.
Yeah.
He gets 3 of them a week. Yeah. That's all he gets.
Yeah.
Nobody sits down with Trump and says, how you doing?
I know, and that was genuinely, it was 4 o'clock on a Friday. He's got Marine One helicopter waiting on the lawn to take him to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. So we were told, you've probably got 20 minutes. And I thought, oh, come on, I can probably do better than that. Let's just chat. Let's just have a conversation. Because, like you say, it was my first ever time sitting down with the president. I'm not going to go in there pretending I'm trying to be something that I'm not. Because I don't... My father's always said to me, you can ask anybody anything with a smile on your face. You can ask any question with a smile on your face. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I can. And so we did talk about the big topics. I wanted to talk about war. I wanted to talk about the economy. I wanted to talk about immigration. I wanted to talk about the issues that I think matter to GB News viewers and listeners. And of course, you've got the naysayers. Oh, it was just, you didn't give him a hard time. It's the President of America for the first time. Give me a break. Like, I will give him a hard time in the future, but that was not the day to go in there and try to be some sort of, you know, just to not be myself. That's not who I am, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. So obviously we got 45 minutes in the end. You know, it got to sort of 20 minutes, and somebody started to say we need to wrap, and he just went, no, I'm happy to carry on talking. I'm enjoying this. I'm fine. And we did a bit more, and then it was kind of getting to the end, and I was like, can I just have one more, and then maybe just one more? and the question that I think really landed with him was when he said, I've never been asked that before, and I've been asked every question I've never been asked that before, and it was just something that I've been observing for a long time watching President Trump, which is he's got this family that really love him. They like him, they respect him, the family of adult children who are so loyal to him, and that is no mean feat. And I often think when he's a president, he's like a really good dad. And that, what I meant by that, I think I said about clear boundaries, not changing the goalposts, carrot and stick where necessary, tough love, always with the intentions of the best interests of the people that you're looking after at heart. And he really liked that question, and I thought he answered it quite well. And he then talked about the fact that his children don't drink, don't smoke, I've never done drugs. I mean, that I think tells you a huge amount about the man. Did you hate the interview, Mally?
No, I didn't hate the interview. I mean, they're not the questions I would ask necessarily, but also, too, Bev, you're interviewing for a British audience, right? Yeah. And as an American watching it, there are different things I might have asked. I think, you know, I was very interested to see kind of how he would frame his agenda in regards to affordability, because we know in the last election, affordability was the top concern, and it's one of the reasons Democrats did well. And you have Republican strategists saying the White House needs to refocus on affordability. But look, I think the reason you got a lot of time with him is you had a conversation he wanted to have. If you had come in there guns blazing, he wouldn't have given you 40 minutes. He might have given you 20. So if it was someone like me conducting the interview, he would have given me 10 minutes and then punched me in the face, and I would have been thrown out by the White House. But
that would have got 50 million views, Mally.
So you were able to get more out of him.
Yeah, and of course the reason that we were there, the hook for the interview, the big issue of the day, which brought our two countries together, was the BBC defamation case. And when he walked into the room, he eventually appeared through one of those three doors, and it was almost just like he just walked out of the cupboard, because nobody came in with him. He just walked in, he just went really softly spoken. He was like, oh, hello, everyone. And then he just went, oh, hello, Bev. And he kind of came over and shook my hand, and he was so warm and so avuncular, and just sort of sat down, and he said, before we started filming, and he said, you know, how big is this BBC story in the UK? Like, is it making headlines over there? He said we should probably talk about it. And it was something that he genuinely, and I said it on Friday night when the show went out, I think his emotion towards that interview is hurt. I think he's touchingly naive in some ways about how the media sees him, and he couldn't understand why a country that he feels is his closest ally, from where his mother hailed, why this country would depict him like that. Let's have a quick look at what was said.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
And it's gone quite quiet this week after that interview in terms of what his next steps might be against the BBC. And maybe part of it was he wanted to say his piece to a British audience, and maybe he has gone away to think about next steps. Do you have a suspicion, Jennifer, of what he might be thinking now or do next to the BBC?
I do, actually, and I don't think it was about the $5 billion that he's suing for. I don't think that he thinks he's going to get that, nor will he get it. I think it was about starting a conversation. So, as you said, you know, the last few weeks, this has been the top story. everywhere. And it is really good that we're having this conversation. And there are, you know, if you look at the percentage of how the majority of the media in this country, in the United States, in a lot of places, cover President Trump, it is very, very skewed negatively. So, you know, that's one thing, you know, but then to cut and splice things in a very, very unethical and misleading and dishonest way, like the losers in all of that are the British people, right? It's not Trump. Trump's going to be fine. The United States is going to be fine. But, like, at least now the British people might think, okay, I can't trust my state broadcaster all the time, so maybe I will. I mean, we're all news junkies here, right? So we're, I don't know about you guys, but, like, I'm sure you do. I listen and watch things on the left and the right and the center and do all sorts of things and triple check things. So maybe people will learn to do news a little bit better after learning how bad the BBC has disappointed them.
Yeah, what struck me, Bev, is that interestingly, because of the zeitgeist of what's happening with the BBC, what's happening with UK politics, what's happening with US politics, GB News and Bev Turner became centre and sort of right in the middle of the limelight with regards to US and UK relations. Because actually, you know, I say a lot of negative things about Keir Starmer, but he manages President Trump very well. You know, he understands what he needs to do. And what you did as well was manage Donald Trump very well. Of course we should be building a relationship. We're told endlessly that this man's an ogre. He quite clearly is not an ogre. We needed someone to sit down and ask him the questions you did in the way you did, so we get to understand him as a man. And that whole father of the US, dad of his family stuff, I found very touching. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to understand him a little bit more, and I think the thing is, Mally, he is the butt of the joke, and he has been for 10 years. You know, he is so caricatured by the majority of the media. He gets a very hostile reception wherever he goes, more than anybody else. I did not used to be a Trump fan. Remember that. I was one of the naysayers. You can go through my Twitter account. Oh, and believe me, people have been doing that to drag things up in the last 4 days. Oh, look what she used to think about him, and look at her now. Well, do you know what that's called? Paying attention and listening, and not just believing everything that you see on the mainstream media all the time, on the left-wing media, and actually drawing your own conclusions. Do you think it would have felt like a different interview to him, Mally, because I wasn't there to get him with a gotcha question?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you giving questions that were, you know, open-ended and letting him talk and not, you know, trying to do gotcha questions helped the interview be extended. And, you know, Trump kind of has two modes. He has fight and he has charm, right? And if you come in on the wrong foot, you're going to get fight. But, you know, I'm someone who disagrees with him politically and policy-wise, but, you know, the story is all of, like, Trump behind the scenes, that he can be a charmer. And I think he showed that with you, that's why it was a good interview for him. And then one thing I'd say on the BBC front, I'll be interested to see how Keir Starmer handles this, because, you know, he doesn't want to deal with this. He wants to make sure Trump is happy. And I think this is going to involve something with either an announcement of reforms the BBC is going to make, or just trying to tell the BBC, look, settle, give some money. I don't know legally how it would work in your country, but, like, settle, give some money, announce some reforms, get this put to bed so it doesn't become an issue for me.
Yeah. Let's have another look at one little clip. This one on the BBC gathered headlines from across the world. Here we go.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
Sorry, we played the same clip twice. So is that 20 million and one times that's now been watched? Apologies for that. But it did make headlines all around the world, and partly perhaps because it was a British channel, and that is unusual to be given that sort of access. But I thought, what a joy that I can talk to the President on behalf of the British people and ask them those sorts of questions. What would you have wanted to ask him, Mally? You said you would have wanted to ask him other questions. Go on.
Well, this is why I was going to be punched in the face. I was going to ask him what him and Epstein ate on Thanksgiving dinner in 2017. But seriously, the question I really would have liked to ask him is, what is he going to do to try to reverse kind of the economic backsliding that we've had happen? And what does he think that whether it's Congress or actions the administration can do to lower costs? He's kind of downplayed costs being a big factor, but again, he doesn't want to repeat the mistakes that the Biden administration made, where they told people, actually, no, the economy is fine. What you're feeling, you're not really feeling. He needs to have a proactive answer to those questions. But, you know, advice is worth what you pay for it. And my advice to President Trump is free on that. So he can take it if he wishes.
OK, all right, thank you, Mali. The only bit where I did slightly get the giggles is when he was talking about London and Sadiq Khan. And he said it's terrible, people are getting stabbed in the ass. And I sort of giggled, but I think what he was trying, because I was thinking, I'm not sure I've heard of any examples of people getting stabbed in the ass. Like, I think what he was getting at, and we've all been there, I think he meant stabbed in the back, like people are getting stabbed from behind, like unprovoked, attacked when you're walking down the street, but he came out stabbed in the ass, and I just went, which, but anyway, I did manage to cover it, pull it back, I think, from the brink. But authentic, you can't blame me. Right, on the issue of the BBC, the broadcaster has said it sincerely regrets the manner in which this video clip was edited, but added that they strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. They said the BBC holds itself to the highest editorial standards. Right, get in touch tonight, gbnews.com/YourSay. I am looking at your messages as they are coming in, but still to come on The Late Show Live tonight.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage.
It is an unlikely pairing. That is Nicki Minaj, one of America's biggest rap stars, known for bold lyrics, outrageous outfits, chart-topping hits, has teamed up with the White House. We'll tell you why in just a minute. Also tonight, here's a story you don't want to miss.
1 million young people trained in tech skills will be so crucial for their future. That's a £185 million investment embedding AI right through our education system, starting in our secondary schools.
But they never stop to think about the potential disadvantages, because shocking new research tonight reveals that teenagers are turning to AI, that's ChatGPT, and others, for emotional support and advice. Isn't that proof that we have failed a generation? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. Northeast England seeing some significant snow accumulations, most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around. But actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example. But wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev, in London tonight. Isn't it lovely? It's nice to be home. Now, an alarming new study has revealed just how glued Britain's teenagers are to their phones and how much they're starting to trust machines over actual human beings. Almost a fifth of young people in England now turn to chatbots because they find it easier than talking to a real person. So 51% say they ask AI because it's quicker than speaking to an adult. 35% say they do it because it's fun, and 19% admit that it's easier than talking to a real person. Let's speak to AI and technology expert Colin Cooper. Good evening, Colin. So is this bad news? This is kids who are scared of connecting with human beings because as a teenager, frankly, you're meant to be a bit scared. You get a bit shy and a bit self-conscious. You don't really want to have conversations. But it's part of the learning process of becoming a cogent adult with emotional intelligence. They're avoiding that and they're going on the computer and they're asking the computer important questions. That's a failure, isn't it?
It's very scary the way that it's heading. I think AI has so many fantastic opportunities, but that when you remove the human out of it, nasty things can happen. And I think young people are being attracted to it because it's 24 availability, there's no judgment, so there's no embarrassment, and they're getting instant responses. So when you're removing the human out of the room, things go wrong.
Is this because adults have pushed this through? We just saw Keir Starmer there on a lectern, one of the many occasions where he's wanging on about how fantastic AI is and it's going to be in all the schools, it's going to transform everything. There's never anybody in the room that puts their hand up and goes, hang on a minute, have you thought this through? Have you actually thought about the negative consequences of this? We don't do that when it comes to technology, do we? We just push it through, Colin.
We're literally just pushing it through. So I think on one hand, for having AI as a companion in a school, it's fantastic because then no child technically is getting left behind because it's like a personal tutor. But no one's putting in those guardrails to say, hang on a sec, when something goes wrong, how are we alerting someone? Who do we alert? And then what do we do about it? No one's actually asking those questions. And we're moving at such a fast pace. We are sprinting when really we should be walking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about teenagers relying on AI now. You'll be seeing it, Colin. I mean, you're using. I have started to use it. I'm not denying it. I'm not a complete Luddite. I will go on if I want to come up with something creative, rather than starting with a blank page. I will go on to one of the AI sites and just ask some questions. And sometimes it just kicks you off with your creativity, or gives you some ideas which you can. But I am watching adults as well rely on it in the most depressing way. And I just say to them, you are going to become boring, thick, and emotionally retarded if you return to that device every time you've got a decision to make. I'm really fun to be around.
Look, I don't think you're wrong. I think, when it is changing people's languages, it's changing the type of words that we use. It's removing words out of our day-to-day conversations, and people are becoming very vanilla in their communication. We're seeing it in corporate, in business, in medical, in legal. We've all seen the horror stories that have been floating around on the internet. But again, it just comes back to this. We're not asking the right questions. We're not asking, okay, when something goes wrong, A, who's responsible, and B, how do we deal with it, whether it's at adult level or whether we're dealing with kids at schools.
Yeah, it's so depressing. But Colin, thank you so much. Colin Cooper there, a technology and AI expert. Apparently I have to apologise for saying emotionally Just to be clear, I didn't use the R word in that context. I said emotionally stunted. Is that a better word?
I think it described it perfectly, but I understand the Ofcom rules.
Yeah, but you understand.
Or like fire retardant. Or is that retarded?
I don't know. We could be digging ourselves into a bigger hole here. Can we just stop? Let's talk to Mally down in DC, and keeping my seat warm in the studio there, Mally, laughing at us digging ourselves into a big hole. How much do you use AI to solve the emotional issues in your life? Because that's the bit I find really worrying.
I use AI to help draft emails. I have not used it as an emotional companion yet, and let's pray to God that that stays that way. But look, before I think we're at the risk of AI taking everyone's job, I think what we're at the risk of is AI increasing this epidemic of loneliness we see in the United States and a lot of modern and industrialized countries. You first had social media, which gives you this dopamine where you feel like you're connecting with people, but you're not really with people. And AI has made it worse. And it's not great for society, because we know from well-documented social research that interacting with people, actual human people, I say this as I'm alone in a studio, human people in the flesh helps keep you not depressed, keeps you healthy, helps you live longer. And we really have to come to terms with how we're going to get the benefits of AI, but not this emotional backsliding.
I'll tell you a little story. I was in a leisure centre the other day. This was in the UK, not in America. And I came out of the changing room, and the guy on reception didn't know that I was there, and I was fiddling around my bag, and he thought he was on his own. And I could hear him having a conversation, and he's an older guy. I could hear him having a conversation and relaying the fact that he was clearly having an affair, and he was trying to make a decision, and he was having this conversation with an AI therapist quite loudly. And he was saying, and what if I leave my wife? And the voice would say, well, that is your decision, and you may regret that one day. And first of all, I thought it was a human, and then I heard him ask another question, and I thought, no, he's talking to an AI person about his relationship. What would you have done in that situation, Paul Cox?
Well, what I would have done is hidden and listened to the whole thing.
Of course I did. Of course I did.
For as long as it lasted.
Do you know nothing about me? Of course I did.
But there's no way I wouldn't have eavesdropped on the whole thing.
Well, I did, but then I sort of went...
UK government media monitors.
And then I zipped my bag really loudly and sort of came round the corner. Evening, bye, thanks. It's been, thanks for the swim. But it was mortifying, because I thought, how tragic. He's trying to make the biggest decision possibly of his life. Does he leave his wife for the girlfriend that he's clearly seeing? And he's talking to an inanimate object about it, Jennifer.
Well, I mean, first of all, the poor therapists who will now be put out of business, they could charge hundreds of pounds an hour for doing this. But I mean, we always knew that AI was going to, and I'm a fan of it, by the way. It's just like saying the internet, there's good things and there's bad things, right? So, and it's happening, so it doesn't matter. We might as well be involved in it. But I didn't know the emotional part of it, people using it for therapy, or people, as you said, like young kids using it. And I think the danger in that is that it's going to make people a lot less resilient, right? Like, we all learn how to be tough and how to have heartbreak and, learn how to self-soothe after, whether your first pet dies or your first boyfriend breaks up with you, or, there's a death in your family. And if you are constantly looking to AI, for this emotional sort of comfort, rather than going to another human being. And I'm guessing this guy perhaps thought if he was sitting on the sofa across from an actual therapist or a friend or a buddy, whatever, that he would be judged. And that's part of being human.
I was judging him around the
he was being judged. He was being judged. But again, it's just, people need to toughen up and deal with other humans.
I genuinely wanted to interrupt and give him a bit of personal human advice about it, but I thought, well, he's just so mortified that I've just heard what he's doing. Right, so let me know your thoughts this evening, gbnews.com/your say. Still to come tonight on The Late Show Live.
But today, faith is under attack in way too many places. In Nigeria, Christians are being targeted, driven from their homes, and killed. Churches have been burned, families have been torn apart, and entire communities live in fear.
remarkable. Nicki Minaj, one of America's biggest rap stars, known for outrageous outfits, chart-topping hits, she teamed up with the White House to talk about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. But does this suggest that even people with record labels might now sit alongside and support campaigns behind Donald Trump? Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. Northeast England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 2 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief.
Well, that is Nicki Minaj talking about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, because this year alone, between January and August, 7,000 Christian people have been killed, according to the group Inter Society. The American president has previously issued this warning.
The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
So let's talk to Sean Nelson, Senior Counsel for Global Religious Freedom at ADF International. Evening, Sean. Great to see you again. Thank you so much for talking to us. So how did Nicki Minaj get involved with this important issue, and how useful is it for you to have somebody of such high profile backing your awareness campaign?
Well, thank you for having me on, Bev. And yeah, when the president made his decision to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, as he said, because of the extreme levels of violence against Christians in particular there in that country. Just year after year, thousands and thousands are killed for their faith by Islamist terrorists. When he made that statement, that was on October 31st. And right after that, Nicki Minaj took to X and said that she was really proud of the president doing that, and proud that he was speaking up about this important issue. It's an issue that's important to her personally. And as she said today at the United Nations, she's speaking on behalf of humanity. She's not speaking for one group or another group. She's going to keep speaking up for what's right, what she views as right, and for humanity, and for things that should unite us. Nobody should think that the persecution of Christians should be tolerable anywhere. Everybody should be against this. Everybody should support this. And so that's what happened. Ambassador Mike Waltz, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, then replied back to Nicki Minaj saying, would you like to come to the UN and talk about this? And she said, absolutely. And so this was set up in just a couple of weeks by the White House. And it was UN events are not normally like this. They're not normally with people like Nicki Minaj. They're usually a bit stuffier. And so this was a really fantastic moment. And I know that I'm so grateful that she used her platform to speak about such an important issue and to bring this to the world stage. And I think millions and millions of people are going to be hearing about this. People who might not have tuned into the news before, and they're going to be hearing direct from her. And it's going to be a powerful message.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but her ties aren't necessarily to Nigeria. That isn't her heritage, but she is a committed Christian. So she comes at this from that ethical standpoint.
That's right, and I believe in her church. She has some people within her church and the church leadership who are connected to Nigeria, and so I think that's probably where she became aware of that. But regardless, it's certainly something that clearly has touched her heart, and it's something where you could really hear that in her message today, that this is just an intolerable situation, that more people should be speaking out. It shouldn't just be the U.S. speaking out. It should be countries all around the world speaking out on this, and that this was a message about uniting people to stop the severe persecution of Christians there.
OK, Sean, good to see you. Thank you so much. Sean Nelson there, Senior Counsel for Religious Freedom at ADF International. Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas is still with me. Paul Cox is here, and also Democrat strategist Mally Smith in D.C. Mally, it's unusual for such a high-profile celebrity to get involved with a campaign that Donald Trump is also spearheading. Does it show that maybe the tide is changing and that celebrities don't mind getting involved with this administration?
I think you might see celebrities engage on certain topics like this one where Nicki Minaj had a connection to personally, but I'm not worried that there's going to be some huge shift that we're going to lose celebrities. We have Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Beyonce, Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga. I could go on, but that would take the rest of the podcast or the rest of the show. So I won't. So I'm not worried there's going to be a massive move, but I think if they want to engage on certain issues, that's great. They should lend their voice.
So just to be clear, the list you just gave then are all of those politicians who were happy to put their name to the Democrat Party, and particularly for Biden in the last electoral campaign, Jennifer. Why?
So actually, I think, I'd rather see what Nicki Minaj is doing, or indeed what Kim Kardashian did during the Trump first administration, which figure out an issue that they cared about, and then it didn't matter what kind of politician was behind it. They just got involved in the issue. That's great. What Mally is talking about is people just looking at the politician and then putting their name towards that politician, which we saw, we see it in many elections. And I don't think, or we know, those endorsements are not very effective. Whether this will be effective or not, we don't know, but at least it's a lot more authentic. It's it's something that they genuinely care about, and they're putting politics aside and saying, I want to use my voice, my platform to, well, in this case, help Christians in Nigeria.
Paul, isn't it strange, though, that celebrities, and it'd be the same in this country, would put their name, their face, their brand against what would be termed, the old-fashioned term, the left-wing political party, but not against the right-wing? Why? What do they think they're doing there? How have we got into that binary situation of good versus bad?
Well, it's a mix of things. It's sort of social contagion, it's social engineering, it's Pavlovian. So if you are at the top of your career in the UK or in the US and you're a public figure and you back Donald Trump, you won't get the same support from your fan base because they're all conditioned the same way as you are, in the same way as you would if you back Biden. Now, they're not. I don't want to undermine the intelligence of these people, but my guess, my personal opinion would be that a large percentage of those people don't understand the politics of either men. But they just know through conditioning that if they do one thing, they'll get support. If they do another thing, they won't get support. And of course, as for the Democrat Party and the Labour Party, they often say very nice and kind things. Oh, we don't like bad things. And you know, all of a sudden, oh, I don't like bad things either, so I must support them. It's ridiculous. You have to. If you're going to engage in politics and you're going to vote for someone, you have to really understand what it is you're doing. I think it comes down to that. It's about populism. It's about being fashionable, and it's about ticket sales.
And that, Mally, is why Trump loses his rag with the BBC, because he's saying you lot are all responsible for creating this tiny little Overton window, and anybody outside of that is deemed to be bad.
Well, I don't think we should create an Overton window where anyone who's out of this little narrow slice of what they believe is bad. But I also do think that celebrities, you know, they probably come in to endorse candidates for different reasons. But with that being said, I also think they have limited utility and value. I've worked 3 presidential campaigns, and I can tell you the best thing for a celebrity is when they come and do an event with us, they help get people into the door for that specific event, right? But that's about it, right? No one is like, man, Taylor Swift has tweeted out that she's with Harris. That means I'm with her too.
I bet they do. Oh, I bet they do. Oh, come on. If you're a first-time voter and you're a massive Swiftie, you're going to look for her to see who to vote for because you probably don't know anything about politics.
But I would also say, too, you guys sounds a little unhappy that we have all these celebrities, but the right has folks that they hold up too. Elon Musk is a celebrity in his own right. Hulk Hogan got, you know, rolled out at the RNC. You guys are just mad that we have the more talented celebrities.
That is not true in any way, man. You can have them all.
I'm sorry you're stuck with Kid Rock. I'm sorry you're stuck with Kid Rock and we have Bruce Springsteen.
We love Kid Rock.
There's a clear winner there.
Yeah, I find it fascinating, especially because it was Biden, like, you know, and then Harris as well.
Well, I think those...
She had a bit less.
Well, I mean, I think they were paying some of those people, but the other thing is,
good point. They were all paid.
A lot of those people...
Well spotted, Jennifer.
There's a lot of campaign financing that, you know, I think went, especially in the last month or so,
they gave them millions.
pay for some of those people. But that, notwithstanding, I mean, like, a lot of those, you know, whether it's like, you know, the climate crisis or, you know, taking certain vaccines or whatever, like a lot of those people are paid and then they just shill for this and then they lose credibility. So that's why I love what actually Nicki Minaj is doing or indeed Kim Kardashian did. Other people who have, you know, Gary Sinise, a lesser known actor in America, has these wonderful programs where he takes the kids of, you know, veterans to Disneyland. You know, like that's his issue. It doesn't matter who's the president. Like that's what he's getting behind. And I'd love to see more celebrities figure out causes that they like, get behind that, rather than a candidate.
Fantastic.
I will say, though, I helped finance Nicki Minaj's activism because I've seen Nicki Minaj in concert. So I'm helping her spread the word on her issue.
I bet you did not recognise her in that black polo neck, did you? That is a bit different to what we normally see her wearing.
Very true.
No.
He had nothing. Yeah, exactly. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live tonight. Find out why Paris has a new approach to love. I guarantee you will not guess what it is. This is The Late Show Live. No adverts, just a little reset. Here we go. That was quick, wasn't it? Right, Jennifer, Mally and Paul Cox are still here with me. So, a new advert in France is being slammed, quite rightly so in my opinion, for promoting infidelity. So the advertising poster is for Gleeden. It's an extramarital dating app. It promotes discreet encounters and says this on the posters around the city. Unlike antidepressants, a lover costs the health service nothing. Is that appropriate, Jennifer Ewing?
I can't believe you're asking this question. Well, first of all, I'd encourage everybody to look up the company Ashley Madison, I think, where they had a data leak and they ruined a lot of people's marriages. But we were at dinner tonight, some friends and I, and there was a French restaurant, French waiter, and we got onto the subject of like people having mistresses or, you know, partners outside of their marriage in France, and how it was just a cultural thing. So whereas the UK and the US are kind of more puritanical societies, not to say it doesn't go on here, but I think that probably plays okay in France.
Yeah, it is so different, Paul. We are so different to France when it comes to France or to the French people when it comes to the concept of extramarital affairs. And I mean, call me old-fashioned, but we all still, I guess, fundamentally believe in fidelity in a way that the French just never have.
No, it's almost cultural for them, isn't it? Famously, their politicians are never taken to task on this. If they are having an extramarital affair, it's of nobody's business. It's not reported in the press. That is very different in this country. The whole concept, though, that having an affair doesn't affect your health in some way, so therefore doesn't impact the health service, I don't think that's strictly true, is it? There's a lot of stress involved in that. I mean, it's very difficult just to maintain one person. Imagine maintaining 2 or 3 people. That is a lot of stress.
And then not if your husband comes home and punches him in the face. You're all down at A&E then, aren't you? Like, I don't think they've thought this through at all. Mally, what do you make of it as an American, the idea that they could be suggesting you have an affair for your mental health?
Well, you know, just like you guys in the UK, we are way too puritanical for that. That would not fly here. But also, too, kind of what Paul said, I also don't know if it would save money, because if you have an affair with the wrong person and you get an STD, that's going to cost the health service some money. So maybe we should have some, you know, mental health services or get on an SSRI and not have an affair.
They haven't thought this through at all. They clearly had to just ask us for, and we've come up with a concept. Moving on. Have you been expecting a parcel delivery only for it to be delayed? Of course we all have. You're not alone. A record of 15 million people who've used a parcel delivery service have experienced a problem. This is new research carried out in a 1-month period revealed that the rate of parcel problems remains at its highest level seen in half a decade. This is terrible news, Paul Cox, when we've got Christmas deliveries to do, and we all know how bad this system is.
Yeah, we've become incredibly reliant on it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Like everything, and to the point where if it doesn't come almost instantaneously, we get ever so upset as well. So whereas before the rush would have been down to the shopping mall, wherever you are, now it's all done online. I mean, all the best people who plan for Christmas, i.e. mums, you'll find that they have done most of their Christmas shopping already. So they're not really going to be doing anything too last minute. I don't know if that's true of you two. But it's.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, let's just say you're perfect. But
no,
okay.
Not a thing.
Yeah, there was an opportunity to go yes, but
not a thing.
Up to you. But yeah, I think it's just a testament to the fact we've become so reliant on this service. It's probably a very good service on the whole, but now we're totally reliant on it, and nobody goes to the high street anymore. It's a problem.
Yeah, Mally, do you rely on parcel deliveries? Do you find them successful and a best way to shop?
I get like most of everything through Amazon. So if there would be a delay, that would hurt me. In the US a few years ago, there was a lot of reporting about how tough our postal service, how tough it was. It was coming out of the pandemic. We had a lot of delays. So hopefully they can get this straightened out, because as you said, you don't want your kid to you don't want to have to tell your kid, well, Santa's late, you know, sorry.
The biggest issue that we have here, Jennifer, now is people nicking the parcels off the front door. So the delivery people will just leave them on the doorstep, maybe knock on the door, walk away. You might be out at work all day. And Scallies are literally organising this so that they will go round with a van and they'll go along a whole street and just take everyone's presents. Is that a problem in America, Jennifer?
Actually, which is crazy, because so many people have these Ring doorbells and, you know, cameras outside their house. And there's a great video that my friend in Texas sent to me, and it was some some of the sort of seeking revenge for, on people who stole these parcels. And so you'd see the guy come up, and they're all shown on the Ring video, and they'd steal the video, and half these things exploded with like colored dye that went on the people. And the last one was this woman that snuck up to steal a parcel. I can't even say it because I'm afraid of them. And she opened the box, and like snakes jumped out. So, and I know. But anyway, yeah. So there are people who are sick and tired of having their packages stolen, and they're seeking revenge, all on the Ring video. So
another issue that if people had just asked us, they didn't think it through. Go on, Mally, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, Bev, so I live in D.C., as you know, and twice my building has been broken into, the lobby, and we don't have a front desk person. It's just the packages are just on the ground near the mailbox, and they've taken all the packages. That's happened twice, and I wonder, it's like, that's got to be hit or miss, because sometimes you get, like, I guess a pair of Nikes, but another time you're just going to get like a toothbrush someone ordered, like children's socks. Like, that can't be lucrative all the time.
Do you know what I ordered online the other day in Washington, D.C.? My toilet roll, which would have looked like a very attractive box, but because I don't have a car there, it was too inconvenient to carry the toilet roll down the street. So it arrived. Somebody would be welcome to it. That would be disappointing, wouldn't it? Should we just quickly look at a royal story at the end? Sarah Ferguson, another blow. Her children's book has now been withdrawn from sale, sent to the recycling bin. This is the former Duchess of York, Flora and Fern. Kindness along the way. It was going to be published on October the 9th, delayed till November the 20th, now completely withdrawn. And Paul, they've actually pulped the 10,000 copies.
Do you know what? I take no glee in that whatsoever. The first thing I would say to that is I believe in an open market straight away. And she's not been convicted of anything. She just happens to be associated to someone who has. And look, there's a whole bunch of questions there, but that's not my point. My point is, let that stand, put it out on sale. If no one buys it, no one buys it. Put it out to sale. I don't see an issue with that.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, I'm guessing the publisher, whoever who stopped this, probably did some test casing, and said, actually, this isn't going to sell. Now, I wonder if it was not a children's book and it was an adult book, if that would have made a difference. I wonder if children's book was too close to the mark, considering, the issue. But again, let the market decide.
Yeah. Mally, is this appropriate that she gets cancelled? Obviously she's cancelled, but should her book be pulped?
Bev, too many people talk on TV about things they don't know anything about. I got to tell you, I have no idea who this person is, so I'm not going to say anything. And I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So please throw to Paul.
It's only a topic in Britain.
It's Prince Andrew's ex-wife. Well, he's not a prince anymore.
Well. Yeah, that's a bad association, but I don't necessarily think her book needs to be thrown away.
OK, well done, Mally. You did very well there in the studio, all on your own. Malbert Smith there in DC. Jennifer, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And Paul Cox, what a pleasure to see that you're a real person in real life, even more hilarious in real life than he is on the telly. Now, not that you're not funny on the telly. You know what I meant. Right, we will be back. I will be back tomorrow evening at midnight here in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will see you then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. North East England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places, above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.